I thank you guys for really taking the time, an hour off your day, to join this book club session. I know that a lot of you have been, satisfied with the book club session so far, and I'm really grateful that you guys are happy about that. I will continue to make this book club session more and more, better quality, right? Let me go ahead and just mute all of you guys. Okay. So again, as some of you guys already know, you guys will not be able to unmute your mics until the end of class, but when it's 10 p.m., I will unmute everybody's mic so you guys can talk freely for about 15 minutes, okay? But yeah, just wanted to tell you guys thank you for, just taking an interest in my classes, especially the book club. And I'm planning on opening up more and more helpful classes, free classes in the near future. So hopefully you guys will also take an interest in that. Yeah, it's just, there's just so many things to take care of at this point. But I'll try my best to kind of expedite things. And, hopefully you guys will get more help with other subjects as well. All right, so why don't we get started, okay? So for week 3, you guys were supposed to be reading chapters 5 and chapter 6. And yeah, I think these 2 chapters were very, how should I say? It was like, we're like escalating, right? We're definitely escalating to the climax. We're not there quite yet, but well, we're getting there. We're getting there. I mean, if you guys had noticed just with the 2 titles of these 2 chapters, right? One was, chapter 5 was Beast from Water, and chapter 6 was Beast from Air, right? You can definitely sense the fear escalating in these 2 chapters, right? And it's like William Golding does such a good job in instilling that fear in the reader's mind. It's like not just the boys who are now fearing the beast. It's the audience, us, who are reading the books, who are kind of immersed, right? I'm pretty sure you guys were also kind of sensing that fear growing as you were reading these 2 chapters. So how about we, oops, sorry, shouldn't have done that. How about we go ahead, okay? And first, what we're going to do, just the same thing that we've been doing in the past weeks was briefly summarizing the 2 chapters that you were supposed to read. And then we will go ahead and discuss some of the questions that I have asked you guys to answer for week 3. Thank you again for those of you who have answered the discussion questions. I have read them over, and again, you guys have done a great job of submitting very, very good answers. So we're going to go ahead and discuss them at length. So, okay, so in terms of the summary of chapter 5 and 6, I would like a volunteer. Let's see, Juho, how about you go ahead and tell me what happens in chapter 5? Juho? I've asked Juho to unmute her mic, although she has not done that. So you know what, Joe, I'll come back to you. How about I ask Cloris? Cloris, could you give us a brief summary of chapter 5?
Ralph gather all of the children, no, not the children, the boys to do a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They discussed about the fire, which had been gone.
Right.
And also they talked about the beastie thing, and they discussed about it. Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody want to add on to that? How about I ask, let's see, Catherine, do you want to add anything on to what Cloris just said? No? Anyone want to add on to that? Dan?
Can I try?
Go ahead.
Okay, so first it starts with, from chapter 4, it continues with Ralph amalgamating these kids and mustering these kids in order to make another assembly. And it starts with a scene where Ralph is walking to the place that holds assembly.
Right.
And he looks at the beach and thinks something philosophical about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then after he arrived, he was like a total complaint. He just complains every time. So everything which he said was a complaint. For example, he was really amazed of how these little ones are living very dirtily and greenly.
Right. No one's following the rules that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Right. And then how did the and we're going to talk more about this, right? And then what happens after the meeting, the assembly?
And then they get into a dispute about whether there actually is a beast or not.
Right.
Yeah, and they divide into two sides due to the dispute topic that holds two
Right.
sides.
One group is led by who?
Jack, and then Ralph.
And the other group is led by Rolf. But at that point, that Rolf's group consists of how many people?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
A small amount.
It was a very small number. And we're going to talk about that too, okay, guys? So what about chapter 6? Changwon, could you raise your hand? I can ask you. Changwon? Where's Changwon? Let's see. Maybe I'll just find you. Oops. Oh, there you go. Changwon, could you briefly summarize chapter 6 for us?
So basically they get to the part where the two twins kind of find the beast, but they don't actually find it. I'm pretty sure it's just their emotions guiding them to their fears. But then after they notify all the other camp members, they literally get trapped in that fear, and they try to find the beast with Jack being like the leading hunter.
Okay. All right. I think Changwon just that was a good summary. Although there is one thing that I think you're a bit off on. Okay. Especially the beast part. Does anybody want to talk more about the beast in chapter 6? Allison? The beast what was the beast that the twins saw?
It was like someone dropping from the air, and they described it as a furry creature this big.
Right. And we're going to talk more about that. But if you guys actually see in chapter 6, right? I don't know, in my book, in the start of chapter 6, there's a picture of an airplane. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but there's a picture of an airplane in my book, right? Beast from Air, right? And it's talking about this soldier who parachutes down, and then the parachute gets caught up in the trees, and maybe that and Sam and Eric saw that at night, and they think that was the beast, and they run back and tell the other boys about what they saw, right? So the beast there, Changwon, I just want to kind of clarify, it was actually a human being, a dead human being, that they thought was and then the wind was kind of blowing, and then the arms were kind of tangled in the branches and stuff. And then when the wind was blowing, it seemed like as if it was moving, like a snake, right? And that's when the twins were like, oh my God, it's the beast. And they just ran away to the camp. They told Rolf and everybody, and then they started looking for the beast. Okay, so I think you guys have a pretty good idea in terms of what happened in these two chapters. Now let's go into more detail regarding some of the questions that I had for you guys. Now, the first question I had for you guys was, what do you think Rolf is trying to do at the assembly at the beginning of the chapter 5, right? Now, this is really important for us to talk about, because if you guys remember, before we talk about chapter 5, beginning of chapter 5, right? I want to talk more about the end of chapter 4. So what happens at the end of chapter 4? Let's just kind of recap. What happens right at the end, the very end of chapter 4? Can someone raise their hand? No? All right. Hi. Who is hi? Hi.
Hello, I'm Aaron.
Aaron. Okay. Aaron, what happens at the end of chapter 4?
But at the very end of chapter 4, doesn't Simon go inside the forest alone, and then stay there.
Oh no, that was chapter 3. That was chapter 3.
Oh.
Sorry, chapter 4.
I must have have my thoughts mixed up.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Should I come back to you another time?
Yes. That'd be
Okay, Juho, what happens at the end of chapter 4?
The hunters kill a pig.
Right. And then they eat the pig, right? And then do you remember when they were like pretending to kill, like they were trying to reenact the killing of the pig?
Yeah,
Junho?
and they were chanting.
Right, they were chanting. What was the chant? Kill the pig?
Cut her throat, bash in.
Exactly. And they were chanting that. And who was watching that?
Ralph?
Who was watching that? Ralph was watching that with Piggy. And then what does Ralph say? Let's go back, guys. I really want you guys to focus on what happens here at the very end. It says on page 99 of my book. Hopefully you guys can open. Everybody should have their book, by the way, okay? This is a book club session, so you should have your book. It says here, Ralph watched them, envious and resentful. Not till they flagged and the chant died away did he speak. I'm calling an assembly. One by one, they halted and stood watching him. With the conch, I'm calling a meeting, even if we have to go into the dark. Down on the platform, when I blow it, now. He turned away and walked off down the mountain. Now, let's see. Juho, why do you think Ralph is calling an assembly at this point? Why?
He was envious.
Envious? Like he was jealous? Is that why?
Yes. No, okay. They also need to stay organized because we talk about that in the next chapter. Right.
But why particularly when they're chanting this and doing reenacting the killing of the pig? Why? Why do you think Ralph is calling for an assembly while they're doing this? Why does he want to be like, because think about it. He's breaking up the mood. Everybody's having fun, right? Yeah. Let's reenact the killing of the pig. Chant. Let's chant. Oh, what was it? Kill the pig, cut her throat, bash her in. Everybody's having fun and they're laughing. And Ralph is like being the party pooper. And he's like, hey guys, we're going to have an assembly. Everybody come down the mountain now, prompto. He's kind of ruining the mood, right? Let me just come back to you, Juho. What about you, Changwon? What do you have to say?
Basically, when I just read these novels, other novels, survival, they start to chant when their mood gets like really temper tantrum. They can't control themselves. They're just too happy. And Ralph kind of sensed that conflict coming in, thinking that it's gonna get too like unadjusted, uncontrolled if they start chanting, killing other things.
Right.
And then I have a weird feeling that he was thinking that they're going to try to bash a person in. That basically said.
Exactly. I think Changwon is getting at something very very, very important. The fact that when Ralph was watching that, he was probably like, whoa, what is going on? Whoa. Like he was actually, think about it. Ralph is kind of more mature than the other boys in that sense, right? He's looking at that and he's saying, we need to restore some order in what we're doing right now. Because it seems like the boys are going out of hand. They're going out of control, right? So he's worried. That's what I think, right? That's what I think. I feel like that's the reason why he's calling for an assembly, to put things in order. Because right now, when he's witnessing these kids, these boys, other boys, reenacting the killing of the pig, right? He's like, oh, this is a bit of chaos that I'm seeing here. And I think we need to come back to civilization. They're steering too much away and going towards savagery. I need to restore order, right? And in the beginning of chapter 5, he's pondering, he's walking around, right? And he's like, I think Dan was talking about how he was in a quasi-philosophical, right? So Rolf was in a quasi-philosophical mood. At the beginning of chapter 5, right? And let me just kind of read some quotes from the beginning of chapter 5. You know, it says here, he on page 101 of my book, he needed to think. He went carefully over the points of his speech, right? He was preparing a speech. There must be no mistake about this assembly, no chasing imaginary. This meeting must not be fun, but business. Let me just write this down. Hopefully you guys are also writing these down, writing down these notes somewhere. This is interesting. You know, Rolf, you know, in the towards the beginning of the book, when he was actually, you know, calling for a meeting, he wasn't like this. He wasn't like this. But this is a really big difference in terms of a big development in Rolf's character, definitely, right? And you know, it says here on page 104. Rolf moved impatiently. This is at the very top. Rolf moved impatiently. The trouble was, if you were a chief, you had to think. You had to be wise, right? He's putting pressure on himself as a chief. This made you think because thought was a valuable thing that got results. He's, you know, compared to the other boys, he's really doing a lot of deep thinking, right? Which is why we can separate him from the other boys. And then the first thing that he says to the boys when he starts the assembly is, the thing is, we need an assembly. We need an assembly, not for fun, not for laughing and falling off the log, right? Not for making jokes, for cleverness, not for these things, but to put things straight. I don't want to ramble on about this. I really want you guys to be telling me, you know, your thoughts about this. So we're going to start with Changwon. What do you think?
What was the question again? I was just like listening to
right.
you.
So
And then
in terms of the significance behind this, right? We have I was talking about how we see a development in Rolf's character. He's a lot more doing more deep thinking, and he's putting a lot more pressure on himself as a chief, right? And can we just talk about that a bit more about what's happening?
Oh yeah, at the start of the book, Rolf was just like, basically he didn't know Jack. I'm pretty sure he didn't know Jack that well. And so when Jack volunteered to be a chief, he was just like competitive. He wanted to be the chief instead of Jack. But then now that he is the chief, he felt like he has the responsibility to get everything to order, even if it is an island without any adults.
Oh my God, that is gold right there. Did everybody hear what Jangwon just talked about? Jangwon, that was very good. You see, at the very beginning, when he became chief, he had absolutely no idea what he was getting into, right, guys? That's what you're talking about, right, Changwon? He had no idea. It was just a title. But now, in chapter 5, at the beginning, he's really thinking, hey, what does it mean to be actually the chief, right? Now he's really thinking. And this is kind of maturity that we see in Rolf that we don't see in other kids, right? And you know, the kind of pressure that he's putting on himself. When he assumed the title first, when he became chief in the beginning, he wasn't like, oh my God, I'm chief. I'm so afraid of my responsibilities. No, he wasn't like that. But now he's like freaking out. He's like, my goodness, I'm chief. I gotta do something now, right? We see a difference in how he views the role of chief, right? Do you see the comparison, how he views the chief, at the beginning and now how he views the position of a chief, right? It's very interesting. Jinseo, you have your hand up. Do you want to say something?
I think Ralph most likely called the assembly when they were singing about killing the pig and other stuff. I think he got disturbed and unsettled, and so he decided to like calm things down so that he wouldn't have to suffer listening to them talk about violent stuff.
Right, exactly, right. Again, Jinseo, you bring up a good point. That's exactly right. He's definitely tired of, you know, Jack and his hunters all the time talking about killing pigs, right? And he's saying, you know what? We need to get things straight. There are other priorities out there that we need to take care of that are not being taken care of, right? So that's what he's really focusing on in that assembly, okay? And how did the boys react? Allison, how did the boys react?
The boys reacted by they were kind of upset. They were kind of, I think they were kind of annoyed at Ralph because as you said, he was being the party pooper.
Exactly. No one likes a party pooper. I don't like a party pooper. I've been the party pooper, guys. You know, no one likes it, right? When you say, let's go to sleep, right? The party's over. People don't like that, right? It doesn't matter if you're middle school or high school or college or just general in life. No one likes that. And it's hard to be the party pooper, but sometimes you need them, right? Because without them, there's going to be chaos, right? There's no, you know, sense of civilization at all. Dan, what about you? Dan?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So what I think is happening, I think the kids are actually being disobedient, and they think it's a joke what Ralph says.
Yeah.
Because Ralph repeats dirty, dirty, dirty in order, like every time, in order to emphasize what he's wanting to say. Yeah. However, the little ones, like, they're kind of immature because they are very young, and they just start laughing about it, and then just there was a whole set of chaos because there's so much little ones that are laughing. Yeah, I know. Seriously, it's you know, it's really hard, right, for Rolf. Guys, think about, put yourself in his shoes, right? How hard it is to be chief at this point. You know, taking care of little ones, you know, 6-year-old boys, it's not a really easy thing to do, right? When he's only like 12 years himself, he's not an adult. He doesn't know how to do things, and he has to control these boys and take and despite their reaction of being annoyed and hating Ralph for, you know, stating so many rules, he has to stay firm, right? It's really, really hard. Now let's move on to the next question, guys. I want to discuss many different questions that I had here. Now the second question I had for you, and this is a really pivotal moment, I think. One of the major things that happened. Remember in chapter 5, there were two little ones that came forth and talked about the beastie, right? The first one was the little one was called Phil, and he was talking about how the little one was like, how the beastie was like, you know, moving around in the forest, and it turned out just to be Simon, who was going to his you know, secret place in the forest. Remember we saw back in end of chapter 3, and then there was another little one. His name was Percival Wemyss Madison. And when he was asked who he is, right, to introduce himself, look what he said. This is really interesting. I love what William Golding did. He said, Percival Wemyss Madison, the Vicarage, Harncourts, St. Anthony, Hants, telephone, tele, and then he breaks off. This, I don't know. I feel like Golding did such a tremendous job here of describing something that's happening. And I think this deserves some of our attention. So I'm gonna ask Angela, do you want to elaborate on this?
Usually when our parents go somewhere that we don't know because of their work or some problem, they when they're not coming back to our house, we try to contact them with our phones or our house telephone. That's right. And this is just the same scene that Percival is facing because he is now freaking out of the beastie, but he doesn't have a parents to protect him, so he wants to contact with them with a telephone. Right. He's trying to remember something related to his parents. Right? And in this case, it's the telephone number. And can he remember it? No, he can't. He's lost it. And what does he do? He starts crying. Right? Why? Because like Angela said, he doesn't have the protection of his parents to protect him from the beastie, right? Maybe that's why. That's what Angela says, right? He starts crying because he no longer has that protection. Anyone else? Jinso, what about you? Why do you think he's crying?
I think it's because most likely he's starting to lose memory of civilization when he could easily have resources and other stuff.
He's losing memory of civilization. Oh wow, that's gold, Jinsa. Could you elaborate more on that? What do you mean by losing memory of civilization? Oh, I'll unmute your mic. Go ahead.
Like when before the plane crashed, she apparently like could get anything easily, food or help, protection. But now like he has to find that on his own, and he's so like he tries to cling to memories he can still remember.
Exactly.
Yep.
Guys, Percival here is losing. I think Jinso said losing memory of civilization, but I'm gonna write losing sense of identity. Can we talk about this a bit more? The significance of sense of identity in civilization, in society. Every one of us has a sense of identity that we cling on to. Why do we cling on to that? Let's think about that. This is very abstract philosophical talk, but I want to be doing with you guys. But every one of us, Jinso, you do, Dan, Jangwon, Allison, you, Kaden, everyone here, I don't know where, wherever you may be, you guys all have some sort of sense of identity. Why? Why is that important to you? Right? What does that mean to you? June, go ahead.
I guess when we have our identity, that is how the society views on us.
Right. It defines who you are, right? It's like a label, right? And once you lose that sense of identity, what happens, June?
You just become an ordinary person.
Well, not ordinary person, but if you lose your sense of identity and you forget who you are, then what could that lead to? What could that lead to possibly?
Well, possibly, when you have your identity, when it's like crystal clear,
Mm-hmm.
you actually feel as if you have power. But then if you lose that identity, as I mentioned, you're just same as other people, and you're degrading yourself. So you're just gonna feel bad for yourself. Right.
It's crazy, right? And I think Golding does a very good job of describing how kids also have they formulate their own identity even when they're very young. When you're 6 years old, 7 years old, you have a sense of identity in society.
Yep.
You have a sense of who you are, right? Even when you're that young. And as time goes by, they forget it. And when they forget it, chaos breaks out. You know why people cling on to sense of identity? I thought about it. It's because it provides us stability. Stability in life. And guys, emotional stability is a very, very important thing in our lives, right? And if we don't have that emotional stability, right, we start to freak out. And that's when the fear of the beastie can even, take over our minds even more, right? Because we are so vulnerable at that stage, right? Does anybody have anything else to add onto this? Okay, all right. I think you guys are really, Changwon, one last thing.
No. I like.
Oh, okay.
That's the other thing. Sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so now this is my favorite character, Simon. He's totally something else, right? Simon says that the beastie might be only the boys, right? And he also says we could be sort of, and he breaks off. Now, I'm just imagining if Simon, I'm just picturing Simon, right? He, his personality, we talked about Simon's personality in the previous book club sessions, but we talked about how he's a very shy boy and he's not really speaking up his mind, right? He's containing the ideas that he has, his opinions. He's really afraid. It seems like he's afraid to share it with the group, right? He says, we could be sort of ... right? Everybody else just shouts out whatever they want, but Simon, he doesn't. I thought that was like, so, I'm like, Simon, why can't you say what you need to say, right? And we're going to talk, and there's another question that I mentioned, right? But let's see, what do you think Simon is trying to say here, guys? What is Simon trying to say here? Let me just ask someone who actually, Juha, what do you think Simon is trying to say when he says that the beastie might be only the boys and that we could be sort of ... What is he trying to say? Whoops. Let me just unmute Juha again. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't speak right now.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Does anybody want to volunteer? Let's see. Cloris, how about you?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
What do you think Simon is trying to say when he says that the beastie might be only the boys?
like the beastie might be the inner side of the boys, like
Inner
the
side of the boys. Could you be a bit more detailed? Inner side of the boys.
like the darker side. that-
Okay. The dark side of the moon. The dark side. Does anybody watch Star Wars? Right? I'm a huge Star Wars fan. The light side and the dark side, right? We're the dark side of the boys, right? Okay. Dan, what about you? What do you think?
What I think is that Simon is just saying, I think, saying to ease pain of these kids and qualms of these kids of the concept of the beast. And I think he's trying to kind of ease the pain, and also, even though he thinks he is, I think he really believes in the beast.
Right.
At the end of chapter 6, he saw a beast.
So really, Simon is trying to say that the beastie might be just an abstract concept that the boys made up in their minds, right? So in actuality, the beastie is something that it's just the boys, right? It's just them coming up with this fear, right? In their own way, something that doesn't actually exist. But in the boys' mind, it's so visible. They've basically created a whole new being that doesn't actually exist. June, you want to elaborate on that? What do you think?
Objection.
Okay.
So there were two students mentioned about the physical, the psychological part that the boys can mean, but I kind of object to the point. I think it's the actual physical part. When Simon says that the beastie might be only the boys, I think the beast that the children is saying can be a joke that the boys were performing. So I think you're just going uselessly deep. He's talking to children. I mean, even though Simon says this, they're not gonna understand. It's gonna be the physical part that the boys are just trying to prank.
Okay.
In the understanding of Simon.
Okay. So you're saying that the beastie is an abstract thing, right? Not a physical beastie.
No. So what I'm saying is that, I mean, just translating from this sentence that Simon says.
Okay.
That beastie is a prank of the boys.
A prank made by the boys?
Yes.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I see.
So he's just telling the kids, oh, the boys are just trying to prank on you. It's okay.
I see. But I guess what June is trying to say is just a prank, and it's nothing like psychological where it's like the darker side of the boys. I think that's what June is trying to say. That is a good interpretation, June. I'm with you on that. When we just look at the sentence. Now, I'm not sure if Golding. I think kind of Golding is very trying to get at something with the beastie, though. I think we've touched upon this in earlier classes. So although I do agree with you to some extent, but then I also disagree because I do believe that there is a psychological role, role that is being played by the beastie here. Okay, so yeah, let's move on here to the next question that I had for you guys. Just right here, psychological role played by beastie. Okay. All right. Now the next question I had here was about Jack, because he now is transformed as well. Ruff is not the only one who has transformed. Jack has also kind of metamorphosed into something different in this chapter, something that we've never seen. We were kind of anticipating in previous chapters, but he's definitely now kind of, you know, conjured up more confidence to kind of, you know, say it out loud. You know, what does Rolf say? When Rolf says that Jack is breaking the rules, right? And this is page, let me just say it for you guys. We're looking at page 123 of the book, in my book. Rolf says, "The rules," shouted Rolf. "You're breaking the rules." And what does Jack say? "Who cares?" Right? Rolf summoned his wits. "Because the rules are the only things we've got." That's what Rolf said. Because rules are the only things we've got. And then but Jack was shouting against him. He's, you know, when Rolf said something previously, Jack actually listened. But now Jack is like shouting against him. He's saying, "You know what, Rolf? You're not the only one who thinks you're right. Bollocks to the rules. We're strong. We hunt. If there's a beast, we'll hunt it down. We'll close in and beat and beat and beat." Right? He's really, really, you know, kind of fierce about, you know, he's very confident about the fact, his ability to actually kill this beast if it does exist, right? And then it ends up splitting the group in two, right? One with Jack and the hunters, and then the other group mainly with Rolf, Piggy, and Simon. Okay, let's talk about this. What's going on? Juho, you wanna weigh in?
He's becoming overly confident and kind of cocky.
Where is he getting this confidence? I'm really curious. What do you think? Where is he getting this confidence?
After he hunted down the pig, he feels that he's strong and yeah.
Exactly.
He doesn't respect the chief.
Right. So much more confident, violent, kind of tyrannical. After killing the pig, right? After putting on the mask and killing the pig, right? Jinso, you wanted to raise your hand? Go ahead.
Like after like they have a word fight, like after they split, I think it's basically because, well, Jack starts like cursing the rules, insulting them, which I think it means he wished there were no rules so that he could actually become chief.
Okay, right, exactly. So,
but then,
I guess, go ahead.
Like, but then after that, they split up, which kind of like shows that Jack is trying to become his own, like, kind of leader on his own, like the leader of his hunters. And since there's no Ralph, Piggy, or Simon, that means he could freely boss everyone around.
Exactly. All right, start bossing around the other boys. Right? Without anyone to interfere against him, right? Because so far, Rolf and Piggy were there to kind of put Jack in his place, right? Kind of like saying, "Jack, stop, Jack, stop." But now, if Jack leaves, you know, no one's there to like stop him from doing whatever he wants to do. And that's not good, right? So when we split, we have this conflict now. We have this conflict, right? We have this conflict between Rolf and Jack, but they symbolize something, right? What do they symbolize? We talked about this. Civilization versus savagery, right? This is where we see a stark contrast now. This, you know, palpable, visible conflict between these two, you know, ideologies, right? And a lot of you talked about, mentioned how Jack is acting like a dictator. Yes, he is, right? He's really like, he's saying, right? He's like, "You shut up. Who are you anyway? Sitting them, telling people what to do. You can't hunt. You can't sing, right? Bollocks to the rule. We don't need it. We don't need the conch," right? He's acting like a dictator. He doesn't care about the rules anymore. The rules mean nothing to him, right? At this point, his mind is already brainwashed, right? And we see a huge transformation in Jack. I think at this point, you know, savagery has consumed Jack's mind, right? 100%. And there's no turning back, right? And now, what if you guys remember, after he goes away, Piggy tells Rolf to blow the conch, but does Rolf blow it or not? He doesn't. Why does he not blow the conch? Because he said he was afraid that they won't come back. And if they don't come back after he blows the conch, what does that mean? It's the end of civilization. It's the end of everything. This is where we see, how this it was building up to this. We were already anticipating this, but now we've reached a chapter, right, where we can see that the boys have now created their own, basically divided based on what they believe, right? And we're going to see how this conflict escalates, right? Maybe there might be some killing, right, going on. Maybe Jack's group might start hunting for these, for Rolf, Piggy, or Simon. Who knows what happens? But definitely this conflict will escalate in the future. In chapter 6, I think we definitely want to talk about some of the things that happen in more depth, especially the part where Sam and Eric, right? They are describing. They find the dead parachutist, the soldier, hanging and kind of entangled in the forest, in the branches. And then they see that, they're scared, they run back and they say, Rolf, we saw the craziest thing, we saw the beast, right? And how did they describe the beast? Can I hear from someone who has not talked here? Juha, how about you? Let's see. Let me just, let's see. Juha, can you just tell me, how does Sam and Eric describe the beast?
They say like it's like really, it has fangs and it could like fly and it could stand up.
All right, there were eyes. I mean, sorry guys. Let me just fix my writing there. There were eyes, right? These are from page 136, 137 in my book, right? They were talking about teeth. They were talking about claws. Bastion, the beast followed us, right? The beast followed us. Now, we need to talk about something interesting here. Think about it, guys. Are any of these things true? Right? Are any of these things true? Allison, are any of these things true, what they just said? Eyes, teeth, claws, beast followed us.
They're not true.
They're not true. Maybe the eyes part, right? But like claws and the beast followed us, and it was furry, right? The way that they speak about the beast. What do you think about this, Allison?
I think they had a really over-exaggerated description, and it kind of tells us that for human psychology, humans interpret things unrealistically, because the description they made, I think it just cloned their fears about the beast and in their imagination.
Okay. Let's just stay on there, Allison. You bring up a very good point. Human beings have a tendency to what did you say, Allison? Human beings have a tendency to what? To
interpret things dramatically. And when you say dramatically, you're also talking about unrealistically. Can we talk about this psychological phenomenon that we see in human beings? Okay, so a lot of you guys who submitted the responses, you guys did mention this, that human beings have this tendency to kind of exaggerate things, to dramatize things, to make it seem like it's bigger than it is. Now, can we talk about why? Why do human beings have this tendency? That's what I'm interested in. So, who is call on me, please? Okay, go ahead.
Hello, it's June.
June, okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So before the boys are talking about the beastie, right? And then the boys found out the this parachute man, right? And then even before they actually observed the man, I think there's a connection between the beastie and this weird parachute man. So just like, well, it's the same. It's the beast, and according to what we know, it has teeth, claws, there are eyes, and it's alive. It's following us.
Right. Okay. So could you talk more about why you think they're over-exaggerating?
I will say it's because human fear.
Fear? Okay. Okay, fear. What else?
Mhm.
Let me call on someone else here. Jinso, why do you think we over-exaggerate stuff?
Wait a second.
Oh.
Adding on to something.
Okay, go ahead. Just hold on. So what do you have to add on?
So there's a point that I read in the Sapiens. Like, humans tend to imagine things when it's not true.
Okay.
So I guess that's the psychological part of this human fear. They
Okay.
imagine something that doesn't exist.
Okay, that's true. That's true. I'm gonna say a point about that. I also did read a summary about Sapiens as well in that part. Does anybody want to add on to this? Leo, you've been so active on the chat. How about you share something with the group? You want to mute your mic, Leo? No? Okay. Oh, actually, how about I come back? How about I come back to Leo? Who's me?
I'd rather not say my name.
Okay, go ahead.
I think their description is involuntary.
Okay. How do you?
So
What do you?
they didn't. They just came running out of the forest and they met their fellow campers, and they just blurted out stuff they didn't mean to say. So basically, like how they saw eyes, claws, teeth, it was chasing them, all those stuff, but they didn't really mean to say it. They were just so panicked that their masters jabbered out those descriptions without them really meaning
So
to
it's like
say it.
it's because of their it's like a PTSD, like it's because of they were in a state of panic, right? And their minds weren't thinking straight, so they just kind of blabbered out whatever came out of their came into their minds first. Maybe I think that's what the student is saying. That's a good guess. That's good. Let's talk about think about this, guys, and I'll tell you this. When you have it's not just this, but we can also relate it to like dreams, right? Dreams aren't real if you think about it, right? Dreams aren't real, but I'm pretty sure there's been studies done, scientific studies, where they kind of like participants they're in this study and they have a dream, and then when they tell the story about the dream, they kind of exaggerate the story about their dreams. That's what and it's interesting. Actually, I'll tell you this one thing that I saw. They played there was this psychological experiment that was done, right? They had a group of people and they played a game where basically they were supposed to one person had one person supposedly said they had a dream, and so they asked one person to leave the room, and then they that person who says that they had a dream, they didn't, but they just shared it with the group, saying, oh, I don't have a dream, okay, but let's just pretend like we do. And then they asked the person to come back into the room, and then that person had to ask questions about what the dream was about. And then the other people would respond, yes, that's true, no, that's wrong. And then at the end, what they realized is that the person who left the room and came back, that person was able to come up with a whole story, right? The dream that never existed. It never even happened. But just from asking those questions, they were able to come up with like a whole story, a narrative. So really, that shows you how human beings are really good at coming up with some stories that don't even exist, right? We have a tendency to, kind of organize things in our mind. To, why I feel like Sam and Eric does this is because it makes them calm down. That's a human. I feel like this is the psychology that William and Golding is kind of playing on. That when people are are afraid, when they are in a state of instability, they try to organize things in their mind, even though it's not true. They come up with some sort of narrative. It has claws. It followed us, right? It's some sort of narrative to kind of ease their mind, right? Think about this, guys. This tendency to kind of cling on to again emotional stability, right? Jen?
I think like why they said it was a beast and what it tells us about human psychology. I think it was because of the fear and like they already thought there was a beast around the island, so like this was like a trigger for their fear, and so like they were probably scared and like they probably turned around and ran as soon as they saw it, so they probably didn't get a good enough look. But they probably said that it was a beast based on what they saw, but not what it actually was.
Yeah, and you know, I've actually heard seen some interpretations by other people saying that Sam and Eric, that they were not necessarily afraid, they were also excited at the same time at the prospect of hunting down the beastie. I've actually heard. Think about it, guys. Right? Maybe there is kind of like a, you know, it's not just that they're afraid, but they're also kind of excited. Hey, the beastie actually exists. We can actually hunt it down, just like how we hunted down the pig, right? Something. Maybe that's that could also be one of the interpretations that you can make, right? In terms of Sam and Eric's reaction. Let's go on to the next question here I have for you guys, right? And this is regarding Jack as well. You know, Jack keeps yelling. We see a transformation in Jack throughout these two chapters. And in chapter 6, he says, "Conch, we don't need the conch anymore. We know who ought to say things. It's time some people knew that they've got to keep quiet and leave deciding to the rest of us. What does this tell you about Jack and what he has become?" And I think, you know, I know what you guys are mostly going to say, right? A lot of you guys are going to talk about how Jack is now, you know, he's really acting as a dictator, right? He's really assuming power and saying, hey, basically he's saying, I'm right, you guys are all wrong. That's classic dictatorship, right? When he's not receptive to anyone else's opinion, including Ralph's, Piggy's, Simon's, anyone else's, right? So the idea of the conch, right? What was the idea of the conch? What was the conch? What was the conch symbolizing? Gia, what was the conch?
I think the conch symbolizes
we talked about, you know, in the first book club session, how one of the interpretations was what?
Maybe democracy.
Democracy, symbol of democracy, freedom of speech, right? And when he says conch, we don't need the conch anymore, what do you think Jack is trying to say?
So I think Jack is using this kind of discrimination towards others by valuing each person. For example, he believes that Piggy cannot speak, while Ralph could, because he believes he's believing in other people's value from his perspective.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think one thing that I would want you guys to think about is, can we relate this to real life, our daily lives? Do we see any leaders in our days who act a bit like Jack, right? Hint, hint. Right? So we need to think about it, right? There are lots of leaders, political leaders in our world who say that they are, you know, they're the only ones who are right. Everybody else is wrong, right? It's just, we see so many of them. And I feel like, you know, even though this novel was written back in 1954, it's something that people can relate to even today. And that's something that I want you guys to think about. What is the connection, right? Anyone who is like Jack today, right? Think about it. Who is someone that you can think about who is you know, crushing on democracy, freedom of speech, right? And who is acting like a dictator, tyrant, and discriminating others, not caring about other people's opinions. You know, I'm seeing the chat, and some of you guys are saying maybe some of our parents. I'm not sure if your parents would be happy about that, guys. But let's hopefully, yeah. Don't worry, I won't tell on your parents though. Okay, this is just whatever you guys say here. Stays with me. Okay. So what happens in this book club stays in this book club. You know, that's the saying, right? Okay. So, oh, your parents are listening. That's not good. That's not good. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We love our parents, right, guys? We love our parents. So in terms of our last question that I wanted to talk about with you guys, you know, Simon, right? I really think you guys need to focus on your Simon here. And when they are going to the rock formation, castle-like rock formation that they saw, where they thought that the beastie lied there, right? Simon says, he doesn't think that the beastie is real. If you actually look at the description that he has, right? What does he say? Actually, let me go back to that page here. Let's see. I think Simon, right? This is page 141 of my book. And towards the middle, Simon, walking in front of Rolf, felt a flicker of incredulity. A beast with claws that scratched, that sat on a mountaintop, that left no tracks and yet was not fast enough to catch Sam and Eric. So really, he already knows that it doesn't make sense at all, this whole conception of a beastie, right? So, however, Simon thought of the beast. There rose before his inward sight the picture of a human at once heroic and sick. He sighed, right? Other people could stand up and speak to an assembly, apparently, without that dreadful feeling of the pressure of personality, right? Everybody can say whatever they want, but Simon, he has to keep it to himself for some reason. And on page 143, he mumbles confusedly, I don't believe in the beast. Now, what I can't, again, for the life of me, understand is, why is Simon keeping this all to himself? I know we only have a few minutes left. I just want you guys to think about that. Why is Simon keeping all of this to himself? Why? That's the question that I have for you guys. Why is Simon keeping his opinion, his ideas to himself? Right? So, let's see. Olivia, go ahead.
Hello.
Haley, how are you?
Good.
Okay.
Well, I think that he wants to keep him to himself because if he says there are no beasts on the island, everyone's like gonna go wild and they're not gonna care about like any beast. Because of the beast, they are like staying together and stuff. But if he says there are no beasts, everyone's gonna go everywhere and it's gonna be a big chaos.
You know what? You bring up a good point, Olivia, and think about this. At this stage, I feel like the boys want the beastie actually to exist. Don't you guys think so? It's like there's this whole fear about the beastie, right? They're afraid that the beastie is there to kill. But at the same time, I feel like they actually want the beastie to be real. They want it. They're so confident that the beastie is actually true. It's not fake. They want it to be real. And Simon knows that. Simon recognized that the boys are actually obsessed about the idea of a beastie being real. So if he ever even kind of mentions, even slightly, that the beastie is not real, the boys are going to hate on him and say, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Right? The beastie is real. Like, they're so obsessed. Jack would go nuts on Simon. Right? So I think Simon is scared too, Leo. Let's see. Changwon, you said that you have a bit of a incorrect but weirdly incorrect idea. I'm not sure what you're saying. You want to elaborate?
I realized, well, Simon is kind of like an adult. He thinks like an adult. He thinks about the future things that will probably happen that actually comes true. They realize that the beast, this is a spoiler, but he's the only one that talks to the Lord of the Flies, and that's
let's not spoil too much things, right?
That's the only thing I spoiled.
Oh, sorry, it's okay.
Like,
it's okay. Right, people. I hope that you guys don't know what Jangwon is talking about, but it's okay. Now, let's just focus on the idea of Simon being an adult, right? He's definitely like an adult. So, Jangwon, I think you bring up a good point. There are other characters, not just Simon. Like Piggy is also like an adult, right? Piggy keeps saying how the other boys are running like children, right? Look at them like children, right? And Simon is also very much like an adult. He thinks in a very deep way that others boys wouldn't be able to, right? Jin, you want to add on to that?
I think there's another reason why he didn't like tell this to the other dudes. Like, it's fear, but not because of what they might do to him. But I think it's because of their reactions. He might start he might start them panicking and running around screaming, or he doesn't know what would happen, and so I think he thought it was best to keep it to himself for now.
So it's not afraid of the other boys' reactions, you're saying, Jin?
Yep.
You're saying he's afraid of maybe he's afraid of what it would cause.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of, like, I guess dividing the group even more, right? Because think about it, if you think about it, Jack is actually playing on the idea of a beastie to take control of the boys that he's in charge of. He's assuming leadership position by using the beastie as a means to kind of achieve leadership, to act as a dictator, right? So if he says that the beastie doesn't exist, what do you think Jack is going to do to Simon? Do you think Jack will be okay? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. That's going to be bad news for Simon. So really afraid of what of what it would cause for the two groups. This actually brings me back. I don't want to bring politics into this. And guys, I'm a little bit over time here, but if you just bear with me. I remember when George Bush was talking about how when the states was going in a state of war with Iraq, and he was talking about how there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and there was this movie about how they were trying to they sent American soldiers to Iraq to find weapons of mass destruction, and then there's this the movie was about how the weapons of mass destruction doesn't actually exist, right? So I was thinking about how this book really can relate to to reality, right? How political leaders use fear to kind of take control of people in society, right? So that's something that I want you guys to be really thinking about as well. So guys, I'm just gonna end with some extra food for thought questions. You guys have been amazing with your, and if you want to stick around till at the end and kind of, if you have any burning comments or questions to ask, please make sure to do so after once I say class is over. So some extra food for thought questions. The first one that I had was, so we've reached the end of the first half of the book, right? Chapter 6. So we have another 6 chapters to go. Think about how easy it is for civilization to crumble down into savagery, just like how we've seen with children, right? We can see how laws and rules in society are so vital for the existence of civilization, right? Without laws and without rules, right, civilization would crumble down and it would fall apart, right? But then why do so many people break these rules and laws? So that's something I want you to think about, right? If we can see from this book how rules and laws are so important for us, then why is it that people break them, right? Why is it that people break them? That's the thing that I think you guys want to think about, right? And then the other thing that I want you to think about was, can you think of other novels that you have read in the past that really touch upon this notion of civilization versus savagery, good versus evil? It would be interesting for you guys to do a comparative analysis, right? If any of you guys are doing Lord of the Flies in your school right now, as a good paper to submit your teachers, you should write a comparative analysis, right? Saying, hey, I've analyzed this book, but here's another novel that I read, and I think that novel also touches upon this, concept of civilization versus savagery. That would be a very impressive paper from a teacher's perspective. So make sure that you guys think about those kind of novels as well. So I would like to formally, officially end class right now. In terms of your homework, make sure to read chapter 7 and 8 for next class, next week, Wednesday, and please make sure to look over the week 4 discussion questions and submit your responses if you can, okay? So class is over, and you guys are able to mute your mics freely. I will see you guys next week, okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, my
Chen.
teacher. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
The character before Simon,